there. Good evening. My name's Jessica Houghton. I am a guidance counselor. I guess we'll wait and see if a few other folks join us tonight before I start presenting. Good night, or good evening, I should say. Good night, good evening. Just gonna wait a couple more seconds to see if more folks hop in, and then I'll start talking about what guidance counselors do. But feel free to ask any questions as we go along in the chat. Okay. So hi, welcome. My name is Jess Houghton. I'm a guidance counselor, an educator with the OCDSB. I've been with the OCDSB for this is my 13th year, and I've been able to work in a few different roles as a French teacher and a learning support teacher, and most recently a guidance counselor. So tonight I'm just going to talk a little bit about what a guidance counselor does in a high school, because it's a new position that perhaps folks haven't really come across before. So there's a few different roles for guidance counselors in the school. The main job, I'm going to say, is course selection and timetabling. So a big role of the guidance team around these kind of parts of the year are to figure out what courses we're going to offer for the upcoming year, so the 2023-2024 school year. So we do that by, speaking to our students, speaking to departments, what kind of new courses do they want to offer, what kind of standard courses are we going to offer, and what levels we're going to offer them at. And then from there, we build the timetable around student requests. So soon the young person that resides with you perhaps is going to make some course selections in their grade 8 school, or perhaps the school that they're moving from. And we're going to take all of those requests, and from those choices, we're going to build a timetable that best reflects what students have voiced that they want to have. And so from there, we work through creating the timetable. So that's kind of our biggest job right now. Following that, we work with students to help pick classes and pathways that best suit them and their interests. So a lot of students will come to guidance and they'll say, I really am becoming more interested in this subject. Maybe this is something that I'm interested in pursuing after school. And so we'll kind of create a timetable, or not kind of, we will create a timetable around what they're interested in. Of course, making sure that we hit all of those compulsory credits. So if you don't know much about the high school system, there actually is another presentation going on by another really amazing guidance counselor talking about how the credit system works. But basically, in high school, you need 30 credits to graduate with your full diploma. 18 of those credits are compulsory credits, so credits that you're required to take. Those are your math, your English, science, and a few social sciences. And then you also have 12 electives. So from there, we help students create their pathways. And we also support a lot with post-secondary pathways. So when students are in grade 11 or 12, what are they becoming more interested in? What are their goals? Do they want to go to college? Are they interested in an apprenticeship? Are they looking at the world of work? Are they applying to university? And so we help them with those applications, and as well making sure that they have the prerequisite courses in order to get into those programs that they're interested in. So that's kind of the biggest job in guidance, and what a lot of students will come down for. The second kind of part of our jobs is kind of some social emotional support and coaching, I want to call it. We help a lot of students who will come down, maybe they're upset, something's happened at school between them and a friend, and we'll kind of work through some of that peer conflict, how do you resolve disagreements with people and stuff like that. We obviously respond to the emotional needs of students on a daily basis. So if something's going on in their lives and they just want to have a little conversation, kind of get things off their chest, then we're always here to listen. And then we also facilitate a lot of workshops and groups within the school. So that's either based on student voice and things that they're wanting to learn more about, or it could be things that we're noticing as a team that maybe we want to have a little more education in our school around certain topics. So some really popular things that we've supported in the past would be like just pretty basic social skills. Um, that can be for neurotypical or neurodiverse students. We've done, I know at my previous school, we did a really awesome course on just dealing with, frustrations and angers that we're having. How do we cope in really like much more healthy ways? And then we usually always have some really great presentations around wellness, mental health, um, living a balanced life. How do you manage school and like extracurriculars outside of school? How do you deal with those like stressors that come up? So we have a really awesome team that works on these things together. So in student services, when you come into our space, you'll find guidance counselors. Depending on the school that you're going to be attending, you may have anywhere from 2 to 4 or even 5 guidance counselors, depending on the school size. Each guidance counselor usually takes a part of the alphabet or a grade. So it just depends on how the system at your school works. So for example, I had my school, all the students' last names ended from L to Z. They naturally those were the students that saw me. However, that's not like a fixed thing. So if a student was like interested in speaking with me over the other counselor for whatever reason, then we kind of share students back and forth. It's not we kind of just respond as we need to. We're also super lucky to have a team of people that work alongside us. So we are, trained teachers and educators. We are by no means mental health experts or psychologists. So we know kind of when we get to that threshold of like, ooh, this might be a little bit, beyond what my training involves. We may tap on the shoulders of some of those colleagues. So we work as a team. We have a psychologist who usually is assigned, every school has a psychologist assigned to them. Their main role is to do a lot of assessments on students who are requesting, psychoeducational assessments. We also have a social worker who usually will be in your school between 1 and 2 times a week, and they just see students just like any other social worker would in the community. It's just really nice because they're able to come into our building. And then we have itinerant educational assistants. So perhaps you've heard of an educational assistant that works in your small person or young person's classroom. These are educational assistants that have had a little bit extra training, and they come and meet with students and work on different things, helping them with their attendance, getting them to class. Maybe they're working on some social skill things, some stress management stuff. And they also are really awesome for presenting things in our schools as well. So often the itinerant EAs and the social workers will work together sometimes on facilitating some of those workshops and some of those presentations in class or small groups. We also have a learning support teacher who you may know a little bit about from your previous experiences. They work alongside guidance quite closely, and a student success teacher, which is just another awesome role that just ensures student success and achievement. So we're just really looking who is maybe struggling a little bit more for whatever reason, and how can we support them as a team to make sure that they're successful at school. And the final person that makes up kind of our guidance team is a Rita Wood addictions counselor. So students can ask to be, and parents can, and guardians can ask to be referred to a Rita Wood counselor for a variety of reasons. And they also support a lot of our workshops around substance use, like they're doing a lot of presentations right now around the effects of vaping and things like that. So we call on them often in their expertise, which is really quite awesome. So we are available for students to make appointments. We are always available for parent and guardian and whoever the supports are in the community to ask questions. Please reach out. If you're not sure how something works, it's always best to just ask the question, and we're very like open to those things. So hopefully when you select the school that your child will attend, you'll get a little bit of an idea of kind of who their guidance team is and what they do. But they're really great people to talk to, especially if you're unsure around courses, pathways, or just anything about the school. Guidance, a lot of information flows through guidance from student experience, whether that's positive or negative. And so we really work on, I think guidance is a really huge role in supporting community within the school. Another great thing that we get to do is also just hear student interests. So if students are interested in clubs, or things that they want to see at the school, we're always happy to listen to those ideas. Um, and the final thing that we work on quite frequently is just supporting with community connections. So perhaps, uh, someone's looking for more support with in certain areas with their children or their family. We're super happy to help connect. And we are really lucky in Ottawa to work with so many amazing autumn community partners. And they're often really, really excited to work with the families in our schools. So those agencies are going to be dependent on where in the city you're located for the most part. But every school in the city has different community partners that they work alongside with. And sometimes we're even lucky enough to have really awesome people come into our building and facilitate some workshops with students as well. The final thing I'll just kind of speak to a little bit, slightly biased because this is my role this year. Um, Last year, our student trustees came forward with the idea of having identity-based guidance counselors. So it was heard from the community and from students that they didn't always feel comfortable speaking to their guidance counselors. And so we are working on ways to create more entry points for students to engage in conversation. So we have two new coaches this year who are identity-based coaches, and students can request to speak with one of us if they just want to speak with someone with a very similar or, somewhat shared lived experience. So I am super fortunate this year to work as the 2S LGBTQ identity-based guidance counselor. So if there are students who fall in under that umbrella or into that community and they want to speak with someone who also has that lived experience, then I am fortunate enough to go out and meet with them on their site. And my colleague David meets with racialized students who are interested in meeting a guidance counselor who also has that lived experience as living as a racialized man. So this is a pilot project this year that we're running with the OCDSB, but it's very exciting work that we're doing, and it's just another example of student voice and trying things that students are hoping that will support them better at school. Uh, Kind of wraps up my outline of what a guidance counselor does, but I'm happy to answer any questions. If folks have questions, please feel free to throw them into the chat and I will try my best to answer those. If not, thank you so much. And yeah, thanks for coming. Hi, folks. I am just going to give it 30 more seconds to see if anyone else joins us before I start. Okay, here we go. So as I speak, if you have questions that come up along the way, please feel free to ask those questions, and I will try my best to answer them as we go. So hi there. My name is Jess Houghton. I use she, they pronouns. I'm a guidance counselor with the OCDSB. I worked for the OCDSB for 13 years and at a variety of sites. I was formerly a French teacher, then a learning support teacher, and in most recent years, the last 5 years, I've been a guidance counselor with the school board. I actually have a really unique role this year in guidance, and I'll speak about that in a little bit. So what does a guidance counselor do? This is a new role. Not a new role, it's a new position, or it's a position that a lot of grade 9 students don't know very much about because they've never come across a guidance counselor before. And so our job at the beginning of the school year is really to meet our grade 9s, but also just educate them on why they would come to guidance and what we can do for them. So student services in general is made up of a team of people, and this team of people really works hard to ensure that all of our students' needs are being met, both academically and socially. So our student services team is made up of guidance counselors, but we also are really fortunate to have a lot of other people that come in and out of our building throughout the week. So we have a team of professionals that come in from learning support services. We have a psychologist who every site is given us access to a psychologist who's usually in the building once a week, sometimes more depending on the site. And their main role is academic kind of social psychological testing, right? So our psychoeducational tests, looking at supporting students with different learning needs. So that's kind of their main focus. Schools also will have a social worker who works anywhere between 1 to 2, maybe 2.5 times a week at a school. And they are, working on a variety of different things with students depending on their needs. We also have an itinerant EA. So you may have heard of an educational assistant working in your in a classroom, in an elementary school classroom. They also work in secondary school classrooms, but itinerant educational assistants are given a little bit of extra training to do different types of workshops and trainings with supporting students. So they may work one-on-one with a student on developing some social skills. They may work on some stress management solutions for students who are feeling really overwhelmed. And they may also facilitate workshops or small groups. And I'm going to speak to that in a little bit. We also in our team have a learning support teacher. So that would be the person who manages an IEP, so an individual education plan, and ensure that that's happening. And we also work alongside a student success teacher. So a student success teacher is looking for different ways to engage students in order for them to be successful in their classes. And they're really creative and really awesome. And we're really lucky to have them. And the last person who's part of our team is that every school in the OCDSB is also assigned a read-a-wood addictions counselor. So that can be for a variety of different things, not necessarily just substance use. Some read-a-wood counselors will look to things like screen time, technology-based things, depends on the counselor. But also looking at addictions, substance use, and vaping, which is a very common presentation happening in high schools right now, just for students to understand the risks of vaping. So we work alongside these folks, and it's really awesome to have everyone there to support our students. So what is our actual role as guidance counselors, and why would you come and make an appointment to see us? So the biggest thing that we do is timetabling and course selection. So we work with students to create the timetable. So our timetable, and this is what we're busy doing right now, is speaking to our current students on what they would want to see at their school when it comes to courses for next year. So we're trying to build a timetable for 2023, 2024, if I got that right. So we ask students what they want to take. We talk to departments. What courses do you want to add? What kind of interest do you think would be in this subject? What should we remove because it wasn't so popular this year? So alongside administration, we build a new timetable, and from there we start timetabling students in. So if you have a grade 8 student that you're supporting, they soon, in the month of February, January, February, will start selecting the courses for the school that they're going to be attending next year. And they're going to do that probably using an online tool called Zello, but you'll learn more about that when the time comes. So your person, your student in your household will select their courses, and from there we will put a timetable together that hopefully satisfies their interests. As you move through high school, our conversations will change into more of pathway conversations. So what are you interested in doing when you leave? And our kind of role is to listen to student interest and what they want to do when they go, and try and support them in understanding what they need to do to get there. So if it's certain courses that they need to take in order to apply to a specific program, or maybe it's work experience that they want to gain, and we're supporting them with resume building, and we're linking them up with our co-op department. There's a variety of different pathways that students can choose. So no matter what they're looking to do, whether they're looking to move from high school to the world of work, if they're looking into an apprenticeship, if they're looking at applying to college or university, our job is supporting them and ensuring that they have the proper things they need in order to be successful. I think maybe some people went to kind of how courses work and how credits work in high school. Just as a quick overview, you need 30 credits to graduate from high school. Each course is 1 credit. 18 of those credits are courses that you have to take, right? Your math, your science, your English, a few social sciences in there. And the other courses, the other credits, the other 12 credits are electives, so the ones that they are interested in taking. So that's part of our job. The other part of our job in guidance is social emotional support or coaching for students. So we have a lot of students who will come down and they are looking for just someone to listen. And our job is just to respond to the needs of the students that are coming down to our offices. So sometimes that's, support for conflict at home, support for conflict with peers, right? How do you work through disagreement with somebody? How do you work through some heartbreak sometimes, unfortunately? Different types of things. Could be stress too, a lot of mental health we see. So just a lot of listening and figuring out how we can best support the student sitting in front of us. We also facilitate a lot of different workshops and small groups within the school. And this is based off of student voice and need, but also as well as like trends that we're seeing within the school. So for example, we may have a subgroup or a small group working on specific social skills. It could be in different ways of dealing with our anger and expressing our anger. It could be wellness workshops. I know the school I was visiting yesterday, their social worker was in grade 9 classes looking at just wellness and mental health and what are things that we can do to balance kind of the stresses of life with things that we enjoy. So there's a variety of different groups that run at different schools. Like I said, it's dependent on interest and need really within the school. And the final kind of piece to our puzzle here is making community connections. So we obviously are not professional mental health experts, and nor do we pretend to be. We're really connectors. So when we see a student who may be struggling with something or is looking for a particular resource, we are going to look to connect that person with the proper community resource that exists. You know, in Ottawa, we're so lucky to have so many amazing resources and community partners, depending on the part of the city that you live in. We really look as a school to, you know, forge connections with those partners or those community partners, sorry, within the geographical area of your school. So yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing in guidance that we do. And this year we have a really cool new pilot project happening, and I am really fortunate to be a part of that. So this year we have 2 identity-based guidance counselors, and this came out of a request from our student trustee that sits with the board of trustees, and they from, you know, student voice indicated that they were looking for different guidance counselors that may reflect more of their lived experiences. And so we are very lucky to have 2 coaches this year who are meeting with students across the entire city, so no matter what school they're at. So I am fortunate to be the 2S LGBTQ plus guidance counselor. So I'm meeting with students who identify within that community and are looking to speak with someone who has some lived experience. And we also are, my colleague David is happy to meet with any student who's racialized and who'd rather speak with or prefer to speak with a guidance counselor who also shares that lived experience. So we're hoping this project is just longer than a year. So far, it's been very, I mean, in my opinion, in my biased opinion, it's been really successful with demand. And yeah, so that's what our guidance folks are up to. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Please feel free to send them directly to me or throw them into the chat and be happy to answer those as we go along. But that's kind of the idea of what a guidance counselor does. Please always feel free to reach out to your guidance teams. We are happy to answer questions for, you know, parents and support teams, guardians, for what's happening in a student's life. So thank you all for coming, and if you have questions, please feel free to ask them. Hey folks, I'm just gonna give it a couple more, maybe 30 more seconds and see who else joins, and then we'll get it started. Okay, cool. So we'll get started and see who else joins. So, hi, my name's Jess Houghton. I'm a guidance counselor with the OCDSB. I've been with the OCDSB for 13 years um, as a French teacher, and I was formerly a learning support teacher, and I've been in guidance for the last 5 years. I'm actually working in a really cool new role this year, but I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. So, high school, exciting times. And there's some new faces that perhaps y'all haven't come across. So, guidance is one of them. So, what does a guidance counselor do, and why would you talk to them? So, guidance counselors work on a team of folks in student services. Depending on the site that you attend next year, you may have anywhere from 2 to 5 guidance counselors, depending on the size of the school, so the number of students attending. Usually, guidance counselors are divided by alphabet. Sometimes they're divided by grade or specialized program, but usually they're divided by alphabet. So, for example, at the school that I was working at the past few years, I was in charge of anyone whose last name ended from L to Z. Um, Students don't have to see that counselor. It's just a really easy way of dividing up the student body to begin with. But we always say students can see the counselor that they would prefer to speak with. Alongside guidance counselors, and I'll talk more about what we actually do, but we work on a bigger team. So guidance counselors are the people that are there every single day in the building, uh, alongside the learning support teacher, who you may have known in elementary school. They're the folks who manage IEP, so individual education plans. Um, we also work with an extended team that comes in and out of the building. So learning support services uh, assigns a psychologist, a social worker, and an itinerant educational assistant to each building. A psychologist is usually on site once a week, and they are in charge of doing a lot of psychoeducational testing. That's their primary focus for the most part. Social worker on site is usually there between 1 and 2, sometimes 2.5 if you're lucky, days a week at your site, and we are able to refer students to those specialists in their field, depending on student need and family request. Itinerant educational assistants. You may have heard of an educational assistant working in a classroom in elementary school. These are special educational assistants who float between buildings, just like our social worker or psychologist. And they are tasked with working more one-on-one with students on a variety of different things. It could be social skills based, it could be stress management, it could be running different workshops within our schools. So, for example, I was at a school yesterday and an educational assistant was running a workshop just on general wellness and mental health. So, there's a variety of things that they're tasked with doing. We also work alongside a student success teacher. So, they're literally just trying to support students in finding success in their courses. And we also have Read a Wood counselor. So Read a Wood is an organization that exists in Ottawa, and each school is assigned a Read a Wood counselor that will come in 1 or 2 times a week. And they are able to see and counsel students one-on-one on any sort of addiction that they may be experiencing or someone in their life may be experiencing. And they also are able to do workshops within our schools as well. So, for example, I know there's a lot of schools right now who are seeing an increase in vaping. And so Read a Wood are doing a lot of presentations with different classes on how to manage that and how to reduce and how to understand the impacts of vaping. So what does guidance do, and why would you make an appointment with guidance, and why would a student make an appointment, and why would a parent make an appointment, or a guardian? So the number one thing that we do is timetabling. So we create the timetable, the the master timetable and we create a student timetable. So our job is to listen to what students want to take and figure out how to get them into those classes. So to graduate high school, you need 30 credits. 18 of those credits are credits that you have to take. So your math, your English, your science, and 12 of those credits or more, depending on who you are and how long you want to hang out in high school. 12 of those credits are elective credits, so the things that you want to take. So guidance helps in listening to students and what they're interested in taking and creating a pathway for them. And we also, as we move through, 9, 10, and 11 and more into 11 and 12, we're really looking on creating pathways for students. So we're listening to students and what they're interested in taking after they leave. So are we supporting them in creating a resume and getting job experience? Are we supporting them in making college or university applications and helping them know what courses they need to get into specific programs, or supporting them in getting an apprenticeship? So that's kind of like the main part of guidance. The other part that's really important as well is kind of being a social emotional support or coach. We have lots of students who come down and they're having a bad day or a bad week, or they're really worried about specific things. And our job is just to listen and to support them. Sometimes that's a quick fix. Sometimes it's a longer process that may involve a referral to our social worker or someone within the community. And that's our job to figure out how to connect those things. So we really do just respond to the emotional needs of our students on a daily basis, which is a big job as well. We also facilitate workshops in groups, like small groups within a school. So for example, you may have a school that runs a small social skills program. You may have a school that runs different like an anger management based program. So for example, how are we dealing with frustrations? How do we deal with anger in a really much more positive way? Lots of wellness and mental health groups as well. So it's really based off of student interest as well as kind of trends we're seeing within the school. So if we're seeing a particular grade that's struggling with a certain thing, then maybe we're going to create a small group or some workshops based on that topic in order to meet the need of our students. And the last thing we kind of do is really work with our community partners in creating those connections. So Ottawa is amazing. We have so many community resources. Depending on the geographical location of the site that you're going to be attending, you may see community partners coming into the building, but we're often able to connect families and students to those community partners depending on what they're looking for. So those are kind of the two big things of guidance: timetabling and pathways, and getting students to where they want to go, and then supporting their wellness along the way and making sure that they're feeling okay. This year, we have a really cool new pilot project that's running. I'm slightly biased because I'm part of it, but out of student voice of wanting to see students wanting to see more of themselves in the guidance counselors that exist in schools, two special positions were created this year. So the first one is a 2S LGBTQ identity-based guidance counselor. So that's me. So I'm able to meet with students who are a part of that community and who are interested in meeting with a counselor who shares that lived experience. My colleague David does a similar thing, and he meets with racialized students. So students who would prefer to speak with someone who looks and has some experiences that may be similar to them. So that's a new project. It's a 1-year project right now, but we're hoping that it gets extended for next year. So those are kind of the main ideas of what a guidance counselor would do. Parent and guardians are always welcome to reach out and connect with us. You can go to your the school that you'll be attending next year, and you should be able to find the contact information for your guidance counselor. If you aren't sure, call the main line, and they'll be able to connect you with them. But we always welcome parent discussion or guardian discussion as well. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to send them my way. I'm happy to answer them. And if not, I really hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. But that's kind of the gist of what a guidance counselor does. Okay, gonna give it about 30 more seconds and see who hops on, and then I'll start. Okay, hello, welcome. I am Jess Houghton. I am a guidance counselor with the OCDSB. I've been with the OCDSB for 13 years as a French teacher and a learning support teacher, and now more recently in the last 5 years as a guidance counselor. So tonight I'm going to speak a little bit about what guidance does. Um, if you have a person in your household who will be attending grade 9 next year, this is a brand new position that they may not know very much about, and perhaps you don't know much about. And so I'm going to talk about why you'd go see a guidance counselor. So, what does guidance do? Guidance counselors work alongside a group of other individuals to support student success. So, guidance counselors at a school, there's usually between 2 and 5, depending on the school that you're attending, and that is based on student enrollment. So, each school will divide the student body based on a criteria. Usually it's alphabet, sometimes it's grade, but it depends. Um, and so, for example, at the school that I was just previously working at, I was in charge of the alphabet, last names L to Z. It is really just a way of dividing up students, and you're not stuck with that particular guidance counselor. So, for example, if there's another guidance counselor that you feel more comfortable speaking with, then we're always happy to kind of switch students around based on their preference. We work alongside a bunch of other professionals, which is awesome in supporting our students. So, for example, each school is assigned a psychologist. Their main task is to do psychoeducational testing. We also have a social worker on site. So each school will have a social worker who's there between 1 and 2 times a week, sometimes 2.5, and an itinerant AA. So an itinerant educational assistant is just like an educational assistant who works in a classroom, but their main job is to meet more one-on-one with students and doing some coaching. So for example, maybe they'll do some stuff around wellness, balancing school and extracurriculars, getting organized, how do you study for tests, in school in general. Could also be social skills, different kinds of things that may come up. We also work alongside learning support teachers who are manage our individual education plans or IEPs. Our student success teacher, which does just that, helps students find success, especially if they're struggling in certain subject areas, as well as a Rita Wood counselor. So a Rita Wood is an organization that exists within Ottawa to deal with to help support addictions. And so Rita Wood, each school has a Rita Wood counselor assigned to them, and students are able to meet with them if they'd like to speak about their own substance use or someone that they're close with. They also help facilitate small workshops within our school around different substances as well. In particular, right now, a very popular workshop that's going around is around vaping and the dangers of vaping. And so they're working with students to just kind of raise awareness around some of those habits. So why would you go and see a guidance counselor, and what kind of is their job within the school? So there's kind of two big jobs that a guidance counselor does. The first one is helping students pick their courses. So right now we're busy trying to listen to students and what they're interested in taking for next year, and working with departments to see what we're going to offer. From there, we're going to build a timetable and then start scheduling students in. So if you're someone who lives with someone who's in grade 8 in the next couple of months, so January, February time, um, they will pick their classes for the following year. So in order to graduate from high school, you may have gone to this presentation, you need 30 credits. 18 of those credits are compulsory credits, so credits you have to take, your English, your math, your science. And then 12 of those credits are electives, so things that people are interested in taking. So our job in guidance is to try and make sure that students are in classes that they want to be in, that they're interested in, and that their timetables are balanced as much as possible. We don't love to have a student who's sitting in a math, science, and English class one semester, and then a phys ed, art, and in another elective. We try and balance those two things out. So if you get your student's timetable at home and you're like, wow, this looks really hard, and you're not sure about it, you should definitely reach out and ask the guidance team. We also help as we go through in grades 11 and 12, helping students figure out what they want to do when they leave. Um, so maybe we're doing a little bit of investigation into specific programs and what courses they would need to take in order to apply to those programs. It could be helping students find jobs and applying to the world of work. So we're building resumes and skills like that. We can also help supporting students in applications to colleges and universities, as well as learning more about apprenticeships. So that's kind of one chunk, is timetabling and pathways and how to get students to where they want to go. And the second kind of part of that is student wellness. So but social emotional support, but it really could be a coach, helping students manage kind of day-to-day things that they come across. So whether that's conflict with peers, sometimes heartbreak, sometimes conflict at home, as well as just stress, like general life stress, school stress, the demands stress. So we're really just there to listen and help, students along the way. And sometimes that involves us just listening and being that like person that they touch base with. And sometimes that involves a referral to either a social worker or someone who's more skilled in that area, or a community partnership that exists within the city. The last thing that we kind of help with in schools is facilitating workshops and small groups. So depending on the school, depending on the interest from students, and depending on different trends that we're seeing, we may offer small group or class-based workshops on a variety of different things. Could be social skills, could be helping students cope with frustration and anger, could be student wellness, mental health. We've also had presentations on inclusivity and subjects like that. So like I said, it changes all the time, and our job is to really just respond to what we're seeing in the building and what students are telling us. And the final thing that we do is connect families and students with different community partners. So we're really lucky in Ottawa. We have a lot of partnerships that exist between the OCDSB and community partnerships. And sometimes we're able to have those folks into the building to do some education and support some families. And sometimes we just help families learn about their existence and connect with them outside of the school. This year we have a really special program. I'm slightly biased because I'm a part of it, but it's a pilot project where they've hired 2 identity-based guidance counselors. So this came from student demand and student request in wanting to see counselors with some shared lived experience. So I am really fortunate to be the 2S LGBTQ identity-based guidance counselor. So my role is to act as a guidance counselor, just like a school-based guidance counselor would work. And I get to float from site to site, just meeting with students who may be interested in speaking with someone with some shared lived experience. And my colleague David is doing a very similar role as me, but he's meeting with racialized students within the school board. So there's a lot of different things that guidance will do. If you're not sure, always reach out. We're very friendly folks, and looking to build that partnership between student and community. And so if you're unsure of who the guidance person would be, I know teams are going to have in February, end of January, February, you're going to have the opportunity to go to the school that the student in your household will be applying to, or not applying to, but attending. And you'll be able to kind of meet these people. And if you're not sure, you can always call the school and ask, and we're always happy to answer questions. So if anyone else has questions, please feel free to throw them in the question and answer chat box, and I'd be happy to answer them. If not, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and that's all I got for you tonight. So thanks so much.